So I will share my screen now. Can we see my screen? Can we see my screen?
It's loading.
Okay.
We can see now.
Okay. So I have a folder here. It's an empty folder. Let's create the folder together. New. I'll just call it new Git class. So we are going to create files into this folder. So come here and create a file. Let's save it inside that folder. And I will create the first file. I'll call it index.html. So I'll put a random text there. I'll just say this is the index page. I'll create another file inside the same folder. I can call it about.html. I'll say about page. This is the about page. Lastly, I'll create the last one. I'll call this index.css. So this is a CSS file. The first two are HTML files. This is a CSS file. And I'll let's just leave it blank. So we have 3 files inside this folder. 2 of them are HTML files. The third one is a CSS file. Next, we want to use Git to manage this folder. Remember, all of them are inside this folder. So we want to use Git to manage this folder. So what you are going to do is right click on the folder, and do you see Git bash here? Can we see Git bash here? Okay, click on it. So with that, I'm currently inside that folder. Can you see the name of the folder here? New Git class. I'm currently inside that folder. Next is this. There's something you need to do at your end, because after you've installed Git, you need to register with Git. This registration is not online, it's offline. You want to register with the Git on your device. Remember in our last class, we distinguished between Git and GitHub, and I said that we first deal with Git, and I said that will be on our device. You want to register with Git on your device. So you're going to say Git, let me enlarge it. Git config -- global. I will explain everything here. User.name, then you put your name here. You can also add your surname if you want to. So let's explain what we are doing. Whenever you want to write a Git command, you start it with Git. So all the commands we'll be writing, you will notice that almost all of them will be starting with Git. Now, this config means I want to configure myself, like I want to set up something. Git config. I'm coming back to this -- global. Let's ignore this now and focus on others. You have user.name. You are a user, you want to register your name with Git. Git config -- global user.name, then you put your name in quotes. Git config, I'm coming back to this global user.name, meaning I want to register my name as a user, then you put your name in quotes. So immediately you press enter, Git will register this name as as one of Git's users. Now let's now come back to this hyphen global. What this means is this. Remember, we are currently inside this folder. We are currently inside this folder. If I didn't add this hyphen global, if I remove it and I press enter, it means that this user that is registering will only be available inside this folder. That is, that user can only operate Git commands within this present folder. Remember, we are currently inside this new Git class. So if I press enter now, it means that this user that we are registering will only be active inside this folder that we are. So, but by adding hyphen global, you are registering this user on your device so that when you get to another folder, you won't have to register again. You are saying that this user should be globally available on your device. I hope you understand it. Did we get the explanation?
No, sir.
Okay, let's come again. Whenever you want to register, I said first is you want to register with Git on your device, like offline now, on your device, so that Git will recognize you on your device. The first thing is you place this command git config hyphen global user.name, then you put your name in quotes. Then I want to explain the meaning of what I have here. In Git, or let's take it one after the other. Let's delete everything and write again. When we are dealing with Git, all your Git commands will start with Git. All your Git commands start with Git. So we have Git. Next is write config. Config means I want to configure a user. I want to do some configuration on this. And what we want to do is we want to configure a user. Do we still get to this point?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next is you say user.name. Then your name. This your name should be in quotes. This user.name, I'm saying that set this name as a name of a user on these Gits. Do we understand?
Yes.
Now, if I press enter, I want to explain something now. Let's say I have another folder here, and I call it second Git. So, meaning we have two folders now. This second Git. If I open this Git bash here, if I open it with Git, so we are currently inside the second folder, not in the first one now. This user that I registered here will not be available inside the second one. The user will not be available here. So what we want to do is, we want to make this user here, sorry, so what we want to do is we want to make this user Taye Abidakun, we want to make the user available here so that we won't have to register again. Do you understand? Are we together?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So here we'll register the user here, but this user will not automatically be available here. If you want to do anything again, you have to register here, meaning that you have to write the same command, git config user. Git config user.name, then your name again. So that the user now will now be available inside this project. So, but what we want to do is we don't want to keep rewriting this line. So what you're going to do is we now come here and add a flag called hyphen global. So with this hyphen global, what you are saying is this user should be global on our device, should be available globally on our device. So that if I come to this folder now, I don't need to register again. I hope you understand.
Okay.
Okay. So you press enter. I won't press enter since I already have this on my device. I've registered before. So just press enter. Okay, let me just do that. So I've registered this name. Next is I want to register email address. I'll say git config again. ---- global user.email. Then you add your email address.
Why are we putting our email address, sir?
So that Git will be able to know you as this is your name and this is your email address. Whatever thing you do, Git will now save it in your name.
Okay.
So we've registered ourselves. Whatever we now do, we be assumed that this user is the one doing it.
Okay.
Do we understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now we've successfully registered our name and email address with Git. Next is this. Remember what we are doing here is done globally on your device. That's why we added this global. Meaning that once you start a new project, you don't need to run the command again. Like this command, you just need to do it once and for all. Except if you want to register another user. Well, I don't think you have any reason to do that. But this is just done once and for all. You won't have to write this command again on your device. You've registered.
Sir.
Yes, sir.
Assuming that someone changed device, we still have to do the same process in the new device, right?
Yes.
Okay, sir.
You have to. Or let's assume you uninstalled Git on your device, then you have to do it again.
Okay.
So this now means that you are registered on your device. So whatever you do, Git automatically assumes that it is done by this user. Next, meaning that if I have another project, I don't need to. So next thing is this is the project we are working on. We are working inside this folder. Next, I want to tell Git to monitor.
So, excuse me, sir. Just a minute.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So what you're saying is, even if we open another folder, we create another folder, it will go to Git directly since we've done this registration.
Yes, sir.
We don't need to left click, right click, anything again.
Yes,
okay.
You don't need to run this command. No,
All
just
right,
once you open another folder, you still right click.
All right.
You still right click and say git bash here, just like before. But the difference is you don't need to register again.
Okay.
Whatever you do now, Git now automatically assumes that it's done by that user.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Now let's proceed. Next is Git does not automatically monitor or monitors all folders on your device. It doesn't. In fact, Git is not monitoring what is going on here, and neither is it monitoring what is going on here. What you did here, you can do it in any folder, inside any folder on your device. So it doesn't mean the fact that we are running this command inside this folder does not mean Git is now monitoring this folder. So we now want to tell Git to specifically monitor this folder because Git is not monitoring all folders on your device, and of course that makes sense. Because imagine Git monitoring all folders and even those folders you don't want it to monitor. So next thing you want to do is you want to tell Git to specifically monitor this folder that we are in. Are we together?
Yes, sir.
You want to specifically tell Git to monitor this current folder that we are in. So what you are going to do is you now say git init. What we'll be doing in Git is just be writing commands like this. Just write commands. So git init. Once you press enter, it means Git is now monitoring what is happening inside this folder. Do you notice this main? Do you notice that there's a main here?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
That means Git is now monitoring what is going on here. At your own end, if you run it, you might see master. You might see master. We are going to discuss this in one of our subsequent classes if you see master at your end. But whichever one, either you see main or master here, either of the two. But with this Git in it, you are just telling Git that, oh, Git, please help me monitor what is going on inside this folder. And that makes it different from this. Git is not monitoring the second folder. Remember, we created 2 folders. Git is monitoring this, but Git is not monitoring this because we are yet to run Git init inside this second folder. But because we did that here, Git is monitoring this. But because we are yet to do that here, Git is not monitoring this. Any question? Okay, let's proceed. Now let's proceed. So we now know that Git monitors everything going on. Yeah, next thing is this. We now want to, whenever you want to save, okay, notice something very important. Remember, do you notice this folder .git? Do you notice that there is something here called .git?
Yes, sir.
Once you run this Git init, instantly it's going to create this hidden folder for you. This hidden folder is an hidden folder. If you run Git init on your device, you may not see this. If you can't see it, what you are going to do is click on View, click on Options. That is after running Git init and you can't see that folder. Click on Options, then click on Change Folder and Search Options. Then click on View. Don't worry, you can watch the video after the class. Then if you can't see it, most likely you will see it means that you ticked Don't Show Hidden Files, Folders or Drive. Change this to Show Hidden Files, Folders and Drive. Just change it from Don't Show to Show. Then when you are done, click on OK. Look at something. I will change this to Don't Show now. And can you see that that folder has disappeared? So I will change it back to Show. So we have the folder back. So when you run Git init, it's going to automatically create this folder for you. Now, whatever you are doing, whatever we are saving into Git, Git saves it inside this hidden folder. Meaning once I delete this folder, Git is no longer monitoring the folder again. And that's why it's better to keep it as hidden folder so that you don't mistakenly delete it. Do we understand? The reason I'm showing us is to know that this folder exists. But it's best you keep it as an hidden folder so that you don't mistakenly delete that folder, because whatever changes you make here, Git saves it inside this hidden folder. Any questions so far? Let's move forward. Since we are not using this second folder, I would like to delete it. Since we're not using it, I'll just delete it so that we can focus on the first one.
Sir,
Yes.
something else, sir, just now.
Okay.
Inside that folder, can you click it for us? Let me show you something.
Inside this
The folder.
folder.
Yeah.
Okay. Like I said, Git saves everything here. We are not going to do anything here. We don't have anything to do with the folder. Whatever changes you save with Git, Git will help you to save it here. And the complexities of whatever happens here is not for us to, how do I say it? We don't need to come here and to monitor everything or anything going on here. Git automatically handles that itself. And if I delete this folder, then all your changes, everything you've saved to Git will be deleted again. Look at something. If I delete the folder now, I've deleted it. If I go to the command, you will no longer see that main again. Let me close it and run it again. It's no longer there again. because Git is no longer monitoring that folder again. That's your own folder. Do we understand what's going on now? Okay. I will just say git init again. Remember, I'm not doing git config again, because remember that is to be done once and for all. I will say git init again, and the folder is available. Even if I close this now and I reopen it, you will still see the main. You still see the main. Do you have any question? Next, we want to commit things into the hands of Git. Remember, we discussed what Git is meant for. Git is a version control system. So we want to commit things into the hands of Git. We want to say, Git, please help me to monitor this file, help me to keep these files, so that whenever I need it at any point in the future, I can come to you and receive the files. So what we are going to do is this. Git saves files in batches, like first batch, second batch, third batch, in batches like that. So what we want to do is we want to save our first batch with Git. Or we want to commit it into the hands of Git. I think that's the better term. We want to commit it into the hands of Git. But if you are committing it into the hands of Git, you are going to offer it to Git as a sacrifice. I want us to understand why I'm using, you understand why I'm using this term specifically. You want to commit things into the hands of Git. And if you are saving into the hands of Git, you have to offer it as a sacrifice. So look at it this way. Imagine there is a tree. A tree. I don't know how to pronounce R very well, but look at it. Imagine there is a tree like this. So whatever you want to commit into the hands of Git, you will arrange it inside this tree or inside this box. Then you will now give that box, whatever you have inside that box, you will now hand over that box to Git. I come again. Let's assume I want to commit 5 files into the hands of Git as a single batch. Remember I said Git saves files in batches. So let's assume I want to save 5 files as a single batch. I'll first arrange the 5 files inside the tray. When I'm done, I can now commit whatever is inside this tray into Git's hands as a batch. Do we understand the explanation now? Hello everyone. Are we still together? I want to be sure we are following me. Okay. Okay, let's proceed. Thank you. Next thing is this. So next is how then do we arrange these items inside the tray? How then do we add items inside the tray? Remember I said if I want to save 5 files as a batch, I'll first add them inside the tray. Then after adding them inside the tray, then I can now give this tray to Git. So you're going to say Git add, then the name of the file. So remember we have 3 files inside this folder. So I will only save, let's say I want to save just 2 of them. Maybe the index.html and the about.html. Let's say those are the 2 files I want to save. So I'm going to say git add index.html. So I've added that inside the tray. Then the second one, git add about.html. I've added that inside the tray. So at the moment, we have 2 items in the tray. Next is this. We now want to commit whatever is inside this tray into the hands of Git. So you're going to say git commit. Then whenever you want to commit anything, you need to add a message to it. A message that clearly defines what is inside that tray. It's very important because when it's time to collect it back from Git, you are going to use this message to know what you saved with Git. When it's time to get it back from Git, you are going to use this message to quickly identify it, to search for it. Good. Imagine Git is saving these things inside a cabinet, and then the message is like a description. When it's time to get it back from Git, you now go to that cabinet and use the message to quickly know that, oh, it's inside this box in the cabinet. Do we understand? Hello everyone. Is there anything you don't understand?
We are patiently following you.
Okay. Please, most times I want to just be sure that you are following. That's why I keep asking, so that maybe I want to be sure I've not lost my network, or maybe I just want to be sure that everything is fine. Okay, let's continue.
Okay, sir.
So git commit, then you had -m. This -m is the commit message. Then whatever message you now want to add will be in quotes. I can say, remember I said the message should be descriptive, because it's like you are saving it inside the cabinet, and when it's time to search for the message is the description on each box. So when it's time to save it back, you can easily use the message to get back that particular box in the whole cabinet. So I'm going to say we added index.html and about.html. You can even be more descriptive. Maybe there's nothing inside. You can even add it that there's nothing inside both files. Just explain what is inside there. Then after that, you say enter. So I've saved it.
So, sir, I see M. That's M. What does it mean?
This M stands for message.
Okay.
Git commit, then this you write -m, then your commit. You can also write it in full. Maybe if you want to write it in full, you can say -message. That is by writing it in full, use double hyphen. Message, then your commit message will be in quotes. But I think that -m is fine. So immediately you run, let me delete this since I've saved it already. Immediately you run this, immediately I press enter here, instantly it will save whatever is inside that tray and keep it as a batch, meaning that we now have a batch with Git. That batch contains two files, index.html and about.html, and it now means that that tray is now empty. It's very important. If I try to save again, it will tell me that there's nothing inside that tray because you've already saved it. Let's just say trying to save again. Let me just add a message. Trying to save again. Nothing added to commits, but untagged files present. I will explain what is going on. This nothing added to commit meaning that is unable to save anything in the tray since the tray is empty. But untagged files present. What this means is Git is telling us that see, there's a file here that you didn't save with me. That is index.css. It's telling me that there's a file that you didn't save with me, and if anything happens to this file, well, it's none of my business. So let's proceed. How we had new quotes here, I'll just say adding a new text after the first commit. So remember, we've already saved this index.html with Git. After saving it, we are adding a new text again. Now, one thing I want us to notice this. Now, when the file that was saved with Git, or the index.html that was saved with Git, only add this is the index page, but it does not have adding a new. It doesn't have adding a new text after the first commit. So that if anything happens to this file now, since I've not saved it again, like I'm here to save this new one, Git can only give us a file that has this, but it won't be able to give us a file that has this. I come again. When we saved it with Git, there was no line 8 there. This text was not there. So if anything happens to this file now, Git cannot give us this one. If we want Git to have this one with it, we have to save the file again with Git. Do we get it?
Yes.
Okay. So we are going to save it again with Git so that Git can have it. So, but before we save it, let me clear everything. Oh, sorry. Is it clear now? Yeah, I think it's clear. Good. So what we want to do is we want to check the status of our Git folder. We want to check those files that are not committed, those ones that are committed, those ones that have been modified. I will explain everything here. There's a command called Git Status. Don't worry, like there are a lot of things to cram in Git. There are a lot of things to cram in Git, but we will check some of them, and also as you use some of them, you get familiar with them. While for some of them, whenever you need them, you just go to Google and search. That's programming for you. You don't store everything in your head. As you use them, they become part of you. But again, you won't be using everything frequently. You will use some and you won't use some. So those some that you are not using, when you need them, just go to Git and to Google and search for it, and quickly after seeing the results, go back to your code and implement it. So write Git status. Now, what is the function of Git status? Git status will tell you the status of your application. Now we have modified. This modified means Git is telling us that, see, this index.html, I have a version with me. But the version with me is not the same as the new version here. Remember, we've added a new line. So this modified says, although I have a version with me, but what I have inside the version with me is different from what you currently have inside that file. So if anything goes wrong now, I can only give you the old version, but I can't give you the new version, since I only have the old version with me. That is the reason we have modified here. Then we have untagged file index.css. This means this index.css is not even with me at all. I don't have it with me. Then as you can see, we don't have about.html here. That's because the version with Git is the same as our current version, as our recent version. That's why that is not even included at all, meaning it's updated with Git. Any question? So we can now save the new version with Git. We can say Git add index.html. So this we add it as a tray, and we can now say Git commit -n a new line added to the index.html. So we have saved another batch with Git, but inside the second batch, we only have the index.html. Remember, we only added a single item to the tray. Let's create more files in this folder. Let's create more files. I get a new file called contact.html. Then I'll create a new one. Again. Create a new one. We call it let's say to-do.html. So we now have two new files here. So what we want to do is this. We want to add the two files and save it with Git, but we are going to use a different approach. The two files we want to save are the contact.html and the to-do.html. Both of them are HTML files. So we can just come here and say Git add full stop. This full stop means all. Is going to add all files that you are yet to commit, meaning that it will add this contact.html, it will add this to-do.html, and it will also add this index.css. Remember, we didn't add the index.css, but it's not going to add the about.html again, since Git has the updated version. It won't add the index.html also, because Git has the updated version. But aside that, it will add every other thing here. Do you get it? This full stop stands for all. That is, add everything there. But well, I'm not interested in adding this index.css yet. I'm not interested. I only want to add this this content and this to-do. I mean the two newly created files. So imagine I have 100 HTML files here, and I want to add all of them. Will I start adding them one after the other? Remember I said, if you say git add full stop, it will add all files. Meaning that it's going to add not just HTML files, but every other file. If you have CSS file, it will add it. If you have JavaScript file, it will add it. If you have PHP file, any file there will be added. But maybe you don't want to add all the files. You can now say git add anything. This is star, like asterisk, that ends with .html. What this star means, add anything that ends with .html. So it's going to add all the HTML files here. But with that, it's not going to add the CSS file, since this one does not end with .html. Do we understand? Are we together?
But sir,
Yes, sir.
when you
Yes.
when you want to add,
Yes.
you clear the previous one, as in the first two files we save with Git. You clear it, all those things you have done. You clear it before you now do another addition. Is that how we do it? Or I'm expecting you continue like that.
The reason I cleared it is because we are already at the bottom of the page, and I just want us to see it clearly. Like,
Okay,
that's why I cleared
okay,
it.
okay,
You can continue writing it like that. But I'm just thinking maybe
okay,
the whole screen is jam packed and everything.
okay.
So git add star.html, asterisk.html, meaning that add anything that ends with .html. So that has been added. Then we can now commit git commit -m. In fact, if you try to save it without the message, this will not allow you. The message is very, very, very important. So we're going to say git commit -m. I can say all HTML files added. Then press enter. So if you run Git status now, you will only see the CSS file, since we've added all the HTML files. So let's assume I want to add the CSS file. I can just say git add all, or I can say git add index.css, but I think I will use this instead. Git add full stop, that is add all files. It's not going to re-add all of this because they are already added. If you only had the index.css, since that's the only uncommitted file there. So we can now run this command, git add full stop. So this is going to add all files there. And all files in this sense simply just refers to the index.css because that's the only uncommitted file. So we can add our commit message and say by saying git commit -m. So I can say all files added. So as you can see, one file changed, like we only added just one file. Any question to this point? Again, Git has a lot of commands. We can't mention all of it in class. We can't. But then I'll give us the most important ones that's going to help us in our project while we work. Just give us the most important ones. And please practice this after the class. Practice. Create files, add them, commit them, check. And you can also go online and to search more on Git. We are not going to finish it today. We actually have a lot of things to learn in Git. But then, to this point, any question before we move on from here? Next thing, if there's no question, let's proceed. Next thing, we've been adding items all this while. Then the question is, where are all those things we've been adding? For instance, let's assume I want to see the first batch. Remember, we committed the batch. Like this should be maybe the third or fourth batch now. We committed the first one. In the first one, we added just two files. That should be the index.html and the contact.html. Then after that, we added another text inside this to add another line. Then we committed it again as another batch. Then after that, I think we created these two files to do an about. Then so let's assume we want to see the first commit we made. Remember, the essence of Git is that if you have any problem with the application, we should be able to revert back to where our application was as at that moment. So let's say we want to revert back to the very first commit, to where our application was when we made the first commit. How then do we go about it? That's the next thing. Let's go. I will clear my screen so that just to free up space and so that just having all of this there. Next is we're going to use something called Git log. Git log. Git logs, you are telling Git to log these things on this, to log everything you've committed, to log it out, to display it. Git log. So we have this. Once you press enter, you have this. So let's discuss what we have here. What's going on? Can you see your commit message? Do you notice this commit message that we added the other time? Now,
Yes.
what Git log is going to arrange them based from descending order, like from the last to the first. So this is the last one we added, then this second to the last. Why this is the very first one we added.
Okay.
Okay. So this is the very first one we added. Then after that we added this. Then we added this. Then we added this. So let's now take our application back to this stage. Do you notice that aside the commit message, we also have the commit ID? Like there is this number. In fact, this number is the most important thing.
Unique number.
Yes, this number is very, very, very important. When you save anything with Git will give it like something like an ID, something like a number. In order to trace it, whenever you need it, you can now use this number to fetch it out. So if I want to go to the very first commit, I will just use this number. The essence of the commit message to know the right number to use. If I want to go back to this, I can use this commit message to fetch this. I don't know why the very first one is not displaying its own commit message. I don't know what's wrong. The commit message ought to be here. Let me run the Git log again. The first commit should have the commit message. I don't know what's going on. But for others, they have their commit messages. The commit message of this is this. The commit message of this is this. The commit message of this is this. So let's now go to the first one. This ID now can now be used. You just say Git Checkout, then the commit ID. The commit ID of the first one is 83. Yours will be different, of course. Yours will definitely be different. The number you see at your hand will be different from mine. Git Checkout, then you press 83EAA. This is fine. You don't need to type everything. By just typing the first 5 number, it knows that this is the one you are referring to. If I want to go to the second one, I will say Git Checkout F7 5C5. With this, if you go to the second one, then to the third one, just type the commit message. So, but I want to go to the first one instead. So I'll say Git Checkout 83EAA.
But sir, we can as well copy all of them and paste it there.
Yes, you can. You can just copy. But if you want to copy here, you don't use Ctrl C. It's not allow you. You right click.
Okay.
Then you can copy. But if you try to use something like Ctrl C, it won't allow you to do that.
Okay.
So Git check out this. Once I press enter, good. My application is no longer on main. It's now under commits. You are no longer in the main. You are now in that commit. If I go to my folder now to see, I will only see those files that were present in the first commit. Do you understand? It would have deleted every other files. Those new files that I just added, it would have deleted them. And we only see, we are going to check it out now. Then 2, you will see it will also keep untracked files. Remember, we are not tracking the index.css. It's not saved with Git. So Git will intentionally keep your untracked files. The reason is this. Git knows that if it doesn't keep the untracked files, there's no way you can retrieve it again. So the only things you will see there will be those things you saved in your first commit and your untracked files. That is those files that you are yet to commit at all. Because Git knows that if anything happens, that's the end. So let's go to the folder now and check out. Oh, it has even. Oh, I'm even expecting that you should have the index.css here. It has even removed it. Good. So we have these two things: the index.html and the about.html. You should ask me that where is the to-do.html? Where is the about the contact.html? Where are those things? Well, somehow they are lost. Because when we made the first commit, those things were not there. We didn't add them as part of our first commit. Are we together?
Yes.
So if I check out to the if you check your text editor also, you have this is the index page. That second text is no longer there. I mean the line 8. Remember we added line 8. Is no longer there. That's because it was not part of our first commit. This thing looked like a magic. Like the minute I just checked it, it seems it has disappeared. The minute you open the folder, it seems it has disappeared. Git is managing all of that for you. You don't need to think about how they work. Git is doing all of that for you. So let's go back to where we are. I will say Git Checkout main. Remember, we were inside main before we checked out to this. So I'll say Git Checkout main. I will explain some of the those things written here. I will explain that later. So, but here we have Git Checkout main, so that we can go back to the main folder. And when we check now, we should have all the files back. Any question? So let's go back to the second commit. So I will clear everything just to check everything is again. Git log. Then I can go back to the second commit. I'll say Git Checkout. Then F7 5C5. F7 5C5. And I run it. And I'm typing inside the second commit. Then we have this. If you check now, I think we added just one, and this is the line we added when we made the second commit. So I can go back to the main again by saying Git Checkout. So we are back to the main page. Should we continue or should we stop here? If you think it's getting too much, please you can tell me so that we can stop. I don't want to bombard us with too many things, but at the same time, I also want us to cover some favorites. So if you think it's getting too much, just inform me. Can we continue or should we stop?
Oh, I think we should stop for here now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So next week we continue from here. So let's quickly revise. Let's do revision. With the revision, I will create a new folder. And I will use Git to manage everything here. I'll just say maybe my Gits. Then I'll use Git to manage everything here. Let's close everything inside about the first one. So okay. I will just create some files inside that folder. My Git So here I will create some files. I'll create file.html. Then I'll call that kenny.html. Then I'll get another file. I'll just call it maybe about.javascript.js, something like this. So we have 3 files. Yeah, I want to use Git to manage this folder. So what you're going to do is just go straight to that folder, right click on it, and say git bash a. if it's the first time you are opening Git, then you run the Git Config --global user.name, then your name input. Then again, Git Config --global user.email, then your email input. But I don't need to do all of that since we've already done that. Next, we say Git init. With Git init, if you start monitoring what is inside that folder, then let's assume I want to add all the HTML files. I'll just say git add everything that ends with what? HTML. So this will be added to it. Then if I want to add all files, irrespective of the extension, whether it ends with HTML, whether it ends with CSS, whether it doesn't matter the extension, I can just say git full stop. So now we have all files added. So everything is now added inside it, say. Then I can now say git commits then your commit message. I can say added files. So it has saved it with Git. So all of that has been saved as a single patch. But remember, all the files are empty at first. I'm here to type anything. Yeah. So let's add something inside the first one. And let's say so we have this here. Next is I want to save that title page again. I'll say git title.html. So I've committed it as another patch. Next is, if you want to see everything you've added thus far, just say git log. So we have this. So this is the first commit we made, and this is the second commit we made. If I want to return my application back to the state it was when we made the first commit, I can now say, just with this message, you can easily know, oh, this is the first commit, and with this message, you can know this is the second commit. So I can say git checkout. The name of the commit ID 960AF. Not AFC, I just say AF, and the application will go back to that state. So if we check now, there will be nothing inside this title.html again, since it was not present when we made the first commit. Then if we want to go back to the state to the present state of the application, we say git checkout main. So let's assume yours is master. Yours will be git checkout master. If yours is not master main, if it's master, it's going to be git checkout master. So we've come to the end of today's class. Thank you very much for coming to class. Any question so far about everything?
Sir, thank you. Well done for your good job.
Yes, please. Sorry,
I
one last
want
question,
to ask a
please.
question.
Okay, sir.
You can continue, Mr. Wale.
Okay, yeah. How do you delete?
How do you delete?
Delete. Maybe there's a file you no longer want, and it's already in the Git. How do you remove it?
Okay, we're going to check this in our subsequent classes. One of those things that we are still going to look at later. Let's say you mistakenly added a file or committed a file, and you don't want Git to monitor that file again. You want to remove it. You're going to say how to do this. Git. We're going to do all of that in next week. Thank you, sir.
Sam,
yes, sir.
Yeah, my question is: at what point will we be using this Git? Is it when we are doing our HTML? After we are finished for the day, then we now do all this commit for in the Git. How do we? How we run them simultaneously?
Okay. Well, I would say for now, we're going to say maybe when you are done for that moment, let's say you are building a page and you want to shut down your system, it's good to commit everything and save it. Then when you are back again and after working for a while, then you save again. Just after working for a while, just save. It's like you are saving per batch. I'm done now, then
Okay.
save it. I'm done again, save it.
Okay.
I'm done again, save it.
Okay.
Right. So in our next class, we continue from there. We're going to look at how to delete. We're going to see. We are still going to check Git log. There are still a lot of things we still have to consider under Git log. We still have a lot of things to do there. We look at Git branching and we discuss what a branch is in Git. Then we're going to. I think next class we should end it by talking about GitHub. Then next class, which will be next week Thursday now, we will talk more about GitHub and push all these projects online and see how we can also copy projects from online to another. I'm hoping that we're going to finish Git next week so that we can start CSS in upper week.
Okay.
Alright, so
Thank you, sir.
you're welcome, sir. You're welcome, sir. Good night. Have a lovely night, sir. Thank you for coming to class.
Good night, sir. Thank you.
Sir, good night.